Hello and welcome to this month's episode of Altitude, the show that's all about you. We're going to talk about science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. Our guests will cover an array of topics in industry disciplines and a lot of interesting personal notes about lifestyle, education, and their careers and their jobs. And this show is really intended to hopefully you'll decide to go into STEM or continue along your path with a STEM-related or STEAM-related field. Pursuing post-secondary education, certifications, associate's degrees, or maybe just jump right into the career of some type of technology engineering. So with me today, we have a great lineup again. We have my sidekick, as I like to call him, DJ Mickey Breeze, who's been here many times. We also have Eri O'Diah, who is a technologist and entrepreneur. We also have Justin Wulf, who is also a technologist and also musician. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce to you DJ Mickey Breeze. DJ Mickey Breeze, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Or is it my apology? I should call you Breeze. You know, wasn't it Lil Bow Wow went Bow? You know, are you going to change your name to Prince, like a one name?
The only thing I did when I finally got into it is I took the DJ off my name.
Okay.
You know, I don't mind it too much and stuff now because that's a lot of what people kind of blew me up as, but Mickey Breeze, Breezy.
Okay. So I addressed you appropriately. That's
Yes.
good. You know, now that you're an adult and I know that you're out there in the real world, it's just hard for us old people to be able to say, oh, look at this young man blowing up. So
1,000 words for snow. I'm just say my name and I'm there.
So how you doing? What's new in your life?
I'm doing pretty well. A lot of what's new is primarily just a lot of the good shows I've been doing. I've had 2 sold-out shows in the past couple weeks at Ice House for an event that they host called Night Church, and Basement Bar in downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
I've had a pretty good time this year with a couple of shows, playing sound set this year on the Beatmakers stage and everything like that. And still trying to get some numbers done on my album that I released earlier this year, Typh.
Well, man, I know I was loving that album, man. But you've been blowing up on social media too, because I think, you know, we don't talk every day. I don't want people to get that impression, but you know, I was looking at Facebook and you were like downtown Minneapolis on Nicollet Mall playing, and people were like jamming. You had a crowd. People were throwing. I need to borrow that little tray so they can start dumping, you know, dollar bills in mine. But no, you're like everywhere, man. That's good.
I try. You know, advertisement for artists is like something that you have to be very diligent at. A lot of the things that kind of I faced or was combatant with as far as when I got started with my career was how I advertise myself to people.
Okay.
You know, now I have my cards to actually network and hand out and be able to meet people and shake hands in person. But there's also the social media aspect that I got to try and get a better handle on as far as actually putting out what it is that I do, you know, from my songs to my rapping to my instrumentalism to my production and just overall the shows and stuff that I've been at. You want people to be able to see that and interact with it as much as possible, even if they aren't able to be there.
Right, right. You have that layer. You also have like the persistent messaging. So like using a buffer or a Hootsuite or some type of regular distribution mechanism. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So in essence, you're really running your own business.
Yeah, essentially. A lot of it was just a bit of figuring out what it is that I want to do, whether that's being a service to people who need music and entertainment, or advertising myself as an artist to clubs or maybe shows that need a headliner, an opener, and things like that. And the balance was actually a lot easier to maintain than I thought, but as long as you know how to advertise yourself to the right people and make sure that you have your image and stuff like that intact for when people do want you, it gets a lot easier.
Oh yeah, yeah. So what's coming up next month or in the next 30 days or so? I know we're supposed to be timeless.
No, you're fine.
What's coming up in November, late October?
At the end of this month, late October, I recently did an article for the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder.
Okay.
Came to my home studio and did a bit of an interview and an article on me and some of the stuff that I've been up to.
Right.
November 15th, I'm supposed to be at the Walker Art Center for the Teen Takeover Night that they hit me up for. And there is actually going to be a diabetes benefit by Maria Issa at the Amsterdam in downtown St. Paul that I'm doing next month as well.
Fantastic. Well, we sure appreciate having you on. Are there any technology or any new tools or gadgets that you've been working with before we do the outro?
Always and forever. Recently, I've gotten into messing with, a bunch of buttons as well. Upgraded a couple DJ systems of mine. But a bit of a throwback piece of technology. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's a talk box. It's like just
the Roger Troutman
yeah,
Zap?
there you go.
Man, you
Zap
talking
Roger
to
machine.
man more bounce of the ounce. Dude.
There you go.
Yeah. Heard it through the grapevine. Yeah, all that stuff, man. That's my prime time. That's roller skating days.
Oh, yep. There you go, then.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, I'm familiar with that. So I actually did see you online doing one of those one time. I was like, look at you. But
Yep.
no, that's wonderful. Well, next time we look forward to seeing you. We have a big event coming up in February, so we're hoping that we'll have a great time and
Yes, indeed.
turn it out. And thank you for joining this episode of Altitude.
Thanks for having me.
All right, sir. Take care.
Breezy.
I ain't really got no skills, only doing what I know. Laptop pay my bills, gotta watch this close. If I wanna pay my rent, then I gotta pay my shows. Hondos in my safe, keep service on my phone. Thinking about a 9 to 5, music just don't pay enough. Can't do nothing otherwise. Having trouble staying up, what you doing with your life? Upping in without a means, what'll make you satisfied? Something more than just a dream. I don't know what I would do without it. Making music is my only talent. If I lost it, I don't think I would ever have a way to make another dollar. I've been up philosophizing about it for hours and hours and contemplating all the benefits of it. The reason behind it that I know and love. Reason in front that could get me a stub. Thinking, is it worth it for me just to be an artist? Would they even like me if I tried to get it started?
With me is Eri O'Diah.
Eri.
Eri, I know. I've known you for years, and I still do not get it right. This is
That's
the
all
old
right.
man in me, I guess. I don't know what it is.
As long as you don't call me Ari.
I know, which is usually, and that that's part of being culturally diverse is trying to understand and meet people that are things that are important to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to call people out of their name or accidentally. I mean,
Right.
I've had people even mess up my name, as simple as that is. So
Yeah.
I totally get it. But so we're here. We're talking about your career, your education, your lifestyle. So Eri, what do you do?
I am the founder and CEO of Collectively Digital, which is an online digital marketing agency that provides branding, social media, creative strategy, and web development to businesses across the U.S.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know you've done some incredible work. I've seen your work. As a matter of fact, I probably owe you a few pieces of content now that I think about it. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how did you come up with Collectively Digital? What was maybe your education? You can share a little bit about how you got to being your own entrepreneur and maybe some of the jobs or career transitions you might have had.
Sure. I actually went to Normandale Community College and got my my AA there. And while I was at Normandale, I actually worked in their gosh, I forget what it's called now. It's DRS, which is essentially their technical and digital department, which at that time, dating myself, I mean, we all know I'm older, so, which is a department that delivers back then television, because the classes didn't have TVs, so you deliver television, and we did we would shoot the job fairs in the Japanese garden, And
That's beautiful, by the way, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we would do all kind of different things around the school in terms of the digital setup. So,
Okay.
so that got me interested. And I was working as a student worker at that time, and that got me really curious about technology, because I would help with the graphic design for certain things, for the flyers for the college. And I ended up going to, after graduating from Normandale, KRS Technical School, which no longer exists. And I got my MCSD, which is a Microsoft Certified Programmer certification there. I could not find a job in Minnesota. This was back in 2001. And couldn't find a job at the time in Minnesota. I had a passion for film. I love television. I watch movies all day long if I could. And I'd always had this dream to be an actress and all of that. So packed my bags, went to LA, said goodbye to everyone, drove to LA.
That's brave.
Thank you. And when I got to LA and I started to look for work there in the industry, everyone kept telling me, do you have a 4-year degree? Do you have a degree? Do you have a degree? I would say, yeah, I have an AA, but that wasn't enough. You know, I was like, well, I have my certification. That wasn't enough, you know, at that time. So I had to go back to school. And I actually went back to school to Cal State Northridge and registered for their CTVA, which is communications and television, and ended up moving into, within the CTVA, there was an electronic media management course, which was this was when Facebook came out and started to become a thing. And everyone was, you know,
like when the parents took over in 2008, 2009?
No, it was
okay.
it was like around 2008, like.
That's when I joined, by the way. My younger frat brothers got me to join Facebook because otherwise I was going to be out of the loop.
Right. That's when Twitter and Facebook became a thing, and that was when you start to see shows say, you know, follow us on Twitter or on Facebook, or they start to run little campaigns. So they added that program to the CTVA degree, and I started to learn more about social media, learn more about audience analysis, and audience analysis really is essentially data analytics, you know.
Which is making a comeback under the umbrella of data science.
Exactly.
Great degrees and certifications to pursue.
Exactly. And yeah, so I started to learn more about that. A year and a half, almost 2 years, I actually did my internships. I interned at various different studios.
Wow.
My first internship was at NBC Universal Peacock Production.
Oh, the big boys, so to speak, the big box.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Peacock Production, which, you know, does the Weather Channel production, and also To Catch a Predator. Worked
My
on
frat
that
brother,
show.
Al Roker. Yeah,
Yes,
we're good.
Dateline, yes. So interned for them and started to learn how to develop shows and research, which translate to what I do now in terms of content marketing, content development.
Wow.
So I did a lot, back then I did a lot of, we would go on YouTube and like watch a ton of videos and, you know, follow YouTube like stars, and then develop shows around the YouTube stars, and then pretty much coordinate that and then pitch it to our director. And whichever ones made sense for the director, that YouTube star would get a show.
So in a way, you had formal education, but it sounds like you had a very rich on-the-job training type of education, right? OJT, I think, is the buzzword that they may use, the acronym.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, everything you've said is just like totally incredible.
Thank you.
So since we'll call that a nonlinear way to get your degree, to get your education, to bring you to be a fabulous entrepreneur and, you know, very successful, for a high school student, You said some very interesting and very brave things about taking that leap of faith, packing up and moving to LA. And, for me, that's a little bit uncomfortable because I probably follow more of the traditional, get a good job, stay in a good job forever, get the gold watch and all that kind of stuff. But what advice would you give a high school student, 11th, 12th grader that might be good at coding or might want to learn coding, that might want to learn infrastructure, building PCs, get that CompTIA certification at while they're in school? What advice would you give that high school student about pursuing a career like yours?
I would advise them to be open to non-traditional avenues, and to take risks. To not be afraid to take risks. If you're in high school right now and you're interested in that kind of work, I would recommend that you do an internship right now.
If they can find one, right?
If you can find one, and how do you find those internships at a high school level? There are various programs like STEM Partners. There's the Sparks. There's BDPA. There are various different programs that you can get involved with that will give you that exposure. Whether it's an internship or job shadow, you can get some hands-on experience at real corporations out there, learning and seeing what they're developing right now.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think the power of what you said too is, even if there's not a direct internship, and I'll just make two comments, is you mentioned Minnesota STEM Partnership. So if there was a passionate, interested technology student, they would come to us and they'd say, hey, I would like to research, I'd like to study this. Do you need any help? Can I volunteer for you? And that's how we would actually engage that student, so that by the end of their 12th grade year, they would have a documented internship in a high-tech, motivated organization.
Right.
The other, you mentioned organizations like BDPA or even NSBE. Becoming a member of that organization, even as a high school student, and participating in those coding programs and other coding programs across the Twin Cities, or whatever the technology is to network, because you have a lot of IT professionals, a lot of engineering professionals, a lot of math and science professionals and arts professionals with digital backgrounds coming in and working with you. So if they see you motivated, doing your thing, things that they didn't even imagine could be done, and that's just your natural flow, right? They're going to say like, hey, would you like to work here this summer?
Exactly.
Or one that we're missing, young ladies, right? There's we have, do you want to share a little bit about aspirations?
Sure. Our agency is working with the Minnesota Aspirations in Computing program. We've been working with them for the last 3 years. And what the program does is they drive young women into a educational and career path in tech, and they do that through exposing young women at the K-12 level to experiential learning opportunities through job shadow and internships, and they award young women for their interests and achievements in tech. And when I say award, you don't have to be like it's not that you have to develop some groundbreaking technology in high school. It's you have an interest and you've maybe you're in your robotics team at school, or your teacher nominates you because you have great grades in your computer literacy class, or you volunteer and teach code to some elementary senior citizens, or you teach them how to check their email or something. So it's not a really difficult barrier to qualify for And by the way, Aspirations and Computing program, the app's open right now. So young women, if you're interested, please go to the Minnesota IT Center of Excellence website. There is a link for the application there.
And we'll subtitle that on there for everybody. Fantastic. Great promo.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of career, a lot of education, a lot of aspirations and youth opportunities. So as we do the outro, what does Eri like to do? I mean, what is your lifestyle? I mean, what what type of activities as this great entrepreneur and technologist? I mean, what do you do to like de-stress for a high school student audience?
Right. Well, I work a lot.
So the truth's coming out, right? Don't get old because if you reach 30, you're gonna be, no, I get it.
So I am a huge yoga fan.
Okay.
So I do yoga at least 4 days a week.
Right.
Hot yoga, helps me de-stress.
Wait, is that eating hot Cheetos while you're doing yoga? What is hot yoga? Just what is hot yoga?
Hot yoga is a room that is probably about this big, 100 to 115 degrees.
Oh, sauna yoga,
like sauna, yeah.
Okay.
Sauna.
Steam room yoga.
Yeah, steam room yoga, and I do the sculpt yoga at Core Power.
Okay.
Plug out Core Power. And they, so it's like circuit exercise. So you're doing yoga stances while doing like CrossFit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you like to exercise and relax and stretch and get the mind, body, and soul, get it all in
I
tune.
used to run track, so I can't run anymore because of my knee, so I got to do something.
Right. No, I understand. Well, we certainly thank you for joining us today on this episode of Altitude, and we wish you all the very best. And I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
I'd
you
be more
for
than
coming.
happy. Thank
All
you.
right. And with me, I have Justin Wulf. Justin, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you, sir, for coming to this episode of Altitude. We appreciate your attendance and presence here. So from what I know about you, I have a little bit of insider information on you, but also too, legitimately without any nepotism, you actually have like an entire spectrum of skills, right? So you have everything, what they call it, left brain, right brain. You're artistic and you're also analytical.
Right.
And so as we get to talking a little bit today, I think that's what will make you a unique interview for us. Yeah. So why don't we talk a little bit about, tell us what you do in your career or job, however you want to call it, and maybe how you got there.
Sure, yeah, so I'm a IT business analyst at Medtronic. I've been at Medtronic officially for about 8.5 years now. Started off as an intern and actually got that internship opportunity through attending a banquet for a computer program that I was in.
Wait, attending a banquet you got a job?
A banquet, yeah.
So networking, you're talking about like you were just
so
hanging out, or how do you get
so,
a job at a banquet?
For those who are familiar or not familiar with BDPA, BDPA is a program for middle school students, high school students to get them familiar with technology, computer programming, web design, so have you.
What languages did you learn while you were in BDPA?
I learned quite a few. We did some ASP.NET, MySQL database programming, JavaScript, I believe, and C#.
So C# was the main business language?
For when I was in the program, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it's changed now.
Yeah.
Python or
it's
whatever
always
it might
it's
be.
never ending.
Yep.
But through that program, we had like our annual banquet where the students get honored and all of the BDPA sponsors are invited. And so Medtronic was a sponsor that year, and I met one of the vice presidents of Medtronic, gave him my business card that was made, like a week before, because we try to act very professional and work on our networking skills. And so I put those networking skills to the test. And
well, Ms. Dorothy, one of the founders, she actually is on top of all those details. So she's a great influence, her and her husband, Joe, co-founders.
So that's kind of where it all started. And then I've been full-time at Medtronic for about 4 or 5 years now.
Fantastic.
Kept my internship all the way through.
Wow, that's amazing. So through this BDPA, you're able to do networking with other students, but other professionals, and because of your opportunity and just being there, right, you were present in that particular space, and you were prepared. You had a business card. And those are some memorable things, especially for executives, because they're looking for people that are hiring managers that are looking for students that are prepared.
Right.
And you were in high school. You weren't like in college or anything, right? You were a high school student, weren't you?
I was in my second semester of college.
Oh, you were?
So my freshman year, second semester.
My apologies. I thought you came back as you were in high school. So
yeah, very soon after.
How many
soon after
years,
graduation.
when did you start your internship? Were you in high school? Had you graduated from high school?
Yeah, so
The timing of
I
that a little
even I applied for an internship at Medtronic in my senior year in high school and got rejected because there were other applicants that had better credentials than me at the
Sure,
moment.
sure.
But I didn't stop there.
Gotcha.
The very next year when I was at that banquet, I still intentionally went out of my comfort zone and made some contacts and met with somebody else who wasn't in that interview process for an internship, and there was a whole nother opportunity waiting for me.
And that, the point I was really driving there is there's this thing called grit and perseverance. And so just because, you're doing so well now, you were on your grind at 12th grade, right? 11th and 12th grade. You had circumstances where you had to stay grinding or, you can't stop. You just
Right.
got to keep going
Yeah.
forward. And then into your college. So that's really very impressive. And it is important that students know that just because you don't get accepted once doesn't mean you shouldn't keep applying, right?
Yeah.
And that's an important message. So, so in your day-to-day work, you're doing data analytics. You're doing a lot of different types of skills. Is there any one particular thing about your job that you really like?
So I recently moved to a different team as of 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay, so you're moving around.
Yeah, and so I'm focused primarily on the mobility side, and so I've been doing some testing on Android and iOS apps for a Medtronic product that, as of right now, it's confidential. It hasn't been officially released yet, but we've got a pilot hospital that's going to be adopting the software and using it in their day-to-day practice.
Well, I certainly don't want to get us in trouble, so we're not going to look for any. We do not want any issues with privacy. So, well, then we talked a little bit about your career and some of the jobs that you might have had, but what about your education? How did you prepare yourself to be in a position to get to that and share whatever you want to about that journey?
Right. Yeah, so I give a lot of my credit to BDPA for starting me off so young and acquiring that knowledge in junior high. Going into high school, I chose computer science classes and more advanced math classes to help set me up for a computer science degree. And so just with that foundational knowledge and continuing to pursue it, I knew I wanted to do something in IT, something in a corporate setting. I just didn't know what yet. I didn't know what opportunities were out there, but through claiming a computer science degree at Bethel University and sharing that with the VP at Medtronic at the time, that I was on the right track to get as many experiences I needed at Medtronic to figure out what exactly I liked and where exactly I wanted to fit in.
Exactly. Wow, that's fantastic. So we've talked about education a little bit. We've talked about career. So then there's this your artistic. I always prefer to call it the artistic side. So tell us a little bit about your lifestyle and your hobbies and your hobby business, or tell us about your other grind. I just learned this term. You had the 9 to 5. And then you have the 5 to 9. So let's hear about your 5 to 9.
That's really funny. That's actually someone says that in a feature verse on one of my future songs, but I haven't even said I'm a hip hop artist yet. But this guy goes, "You got a 9 to 5, you got a 9 to 5, I got a 9 to 9, something." But I'm a hip hop artist for my 5 to 9. I actually have a show tonight and a show tomorrow. But by the time people watch this, I don't want to promote something that happened in the past, but.
What about November? I mean, there's upcoming.
I got some stuff coming up. I'll share that in a second. But so I'm a hip hop artist, producer, studio owner, audio engineer, all that good stuff.
And you do a show 16 for 16 or something?
Yeah.
What is that?
So I call it, it's like hashtag 16 in 16 on 16. And the concept of that is a lot of people who are artists, they worry about how people perceive their music after they release it, and they get so caught up in the anxiety and the stress of writing the perfect verse or writing something that's going to be accepted or whatever. So it's a practice for me and for the other artists that I bring onto the show. But we basically film a session of writing a 16-bar verse, which music theory 16 bars is 16 measures of music.
Okay.
And then on paper with lyrics, it's 16 lines. If you were to write it out, it's a line that rhymes, line that rhymes, line that rhymes. But on the 16th of every month, I release a 10-minute video that shows the process of picking a beat at random that's submitted through people on Instagram, picking a beat at random and writing it in 16 minutes and then performing it on the spot without any rehearsal. So it's very raw and very like to the craft. Like this is lyricism. This is what it means to be a hip hop artist who actually writes their own lyrics and has content.
So how much technology or how much of your technology education, technology work applies to your music or vice versa?
A lot actually. So the knowledge of, building a website, how to purchase a domain name, set up your domain name so then you could have, your own personal email addresses that people can contact you through, that kind of thing. So having that technical knowledge and being able to apply it to marketing yourself and being very comfortable with social media and, video editing and graphic design, all that stuff, it all ties into it. And so off of my website, I also run a business where I sell Justin Wulf merchandise. I got hoodies, shirts.
Shameless
buttons,
plugs are always
everything.
accepted, man. They're always accepted.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about our high school students and looking back at, we focus in on STEM and STEAM, right? All the technical engineering, the science and math, and focusing in on that. But in reality, when you come out of your high school phase of life and into your adult phase of life, you actually have to have business skills. So maybe even beyond that, learning a little bit you have to do accounting, you have to do business management, you need to know a little bit about economics, know about marketing, in addition to just your skill and your craft. And so I think that's important as students know that they have to go back and study those things. Did you take any other classes like that prepared you for your business? Or do you wish you would have had some?
Not that I can think of. I mean, a lot of information and knowledge you can find on YouTube or a Google search.
Yeah.
And so I feel like part of that knowledge came from searching and doing research on how to be an entrepreneur and being so tied into the Twin Cities hip hop scene. Like I was able to pick up knowledge from other artists who are older than me that, could give me some game and some pointers on how I can run myself as a business instead of just an artist that gets on stage, raps, gets off stage, and then you never hear from them again.
Right.
It's all about the lasting impression that you leave on people.
Yep. Branding is important, absolutely. So before we do a wrap up here, is there anything that you want to share? I know I cut you off a little bit earlier about your projects, but anything that you want to share with the high school audience or the audience in general, the airing?
Well, if there are any other artists out there, people who are interested in hip hop or maybe another genre, and also want to try to navigate that into having a career in IT or something STEM or STEAM related, you can give me a shout.
All right, we'll have to make sure we get your information to do the subtitling, so we'll put it in there. Well, Justin, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your career, your lifestyle, and your education with us on this episode of Altitude.
Yeah.
Thank you. What an incredible show. We got to hear from DJ Mickey Breeze. We heard from Eri O'Diah and also Justin Wulf, hip hop artist. So Altitude and the Minnesota STEM Partnership are so excited to bring you content that you hopefully will resonate with some of you in the audience. We hope that you'll understand that there is no straight path to your success, but there are certain things that you have to do. You have to have perseverance, grit, tenacity, and also optimism and faith in your own ability to succeed. As I believe every single one of these people have many different experiences, and they had people along their pathway to help them. We heard from Justin talking about joining maybe organizations like BDPA or NSBE or other school-based and college-based networking organizations. Please take a lot of these things to heart, because this is actually how people are able to succeed in their future. So on behalf of every one of the volunteers with the Minnesota STEM Partnership, we're there to help advance and encourage young people to seek opportunities in education in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as the arts. in advancing their careers and their options and lifestyles for the future. Sustainable communities with a diversity focus. So thank you for joining this episode of Altitude, and we'll catch you soon.